Hello again. Welcome to another edition of CropLife Retail Week here in studio with my partner Richard Jones. I'm Eric Sfiligoj. Richard, good to see you again in person.
It's great to see you. You've been a road warrior the last few weeks.
And I'm still not done. I know the next, actually for our viewers who regularly watch, next week I will also be doing a remote on location video. So look for that. But then after that, I think you're the road warrior because I believe you're attending the CropLife America CPDA meeting in San Antonio at the end of this month.
That is the plan, right?
Yeah, so you're hoping to see lots of folks there. I know that's a pretty good meeting, and I know the Riverwalk in San Antonio this time of year probably a little more comfortable.
Yeah, if not 113, it'd probably be down in the 80s or 90s. That sounds perfect to me.
All right, good. So yeah, you want to see the folks from CropLife and Meister, our parent company, talk to Mr. Jones here. He will be around.
That's right.
Well, Richard, that's sort of some fun news to share, and I guess now we'll have to dive into a little more of the bad news reality side of things. I know over videos the last couple of weeks and months we've been talking about the possibility of a major rail strike happening in the United States. I guess there were about 12 unions that were involved with the major rail carriers trying to negotiate an agreement so that they could avoid this. It sounds like about 9 of the unions, maybe 10, maybe by the time this video is airing, have actually signed on and are putting new contracts before their membership. But unfortunately, it sounds like 2 or 3 will not be approving these new contract proposals. And that affects about 60,000 rail workers. And it looks like the strike might happen on Friday, the 16th of September. Now, when we're recording this is before that, but as this is airing, it'll be the day after that. So we'll have to actually see if there's a rail strike at this point. So stay tuned. Or as Richard said before we got on air, if actually Congress steps in and says you guys got to keep working, then you can skip ahead a couple of minutes in the video and you won't have missed anything. But just some details.
But don't do that yet.
Okay. Yeah, don't do that yet. But just some details. I know they were saying that, by rail, about 30% of the goods and, of course, grain in the United States is transported by rail, and that a work stoppage at this point would cost approximately $2 billion a day as a hit on the general economy. So, again, Richard, this is potentially very, very bad news at a time of the year when we want stuff to be moving as freely and easily as possible.
All right, we've been dealing with supply chain. We've been dealing with labor issues for ever since, before the pandemic started, but ramped up even more over the last few years. And with all the upheaval, this is just the next step. But hopefully we can get this resolved, because the last thing the economy needs right now is a $2 billion a day hit.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, of course, a lot of the trade associations that represent agriculture have stepped up and put out notes to their members to, please plead with their members of Congress to step in if no agreement can be reached. I know the National Corn Growers put out something, and so did our friends at the Agricultural Retailers Association. And just a snippet from their release, the ARA releases, these essential items are transported by rail to domestic facilities and to ports around the entire country. And they're talking about, of course, the goods that travel by rail. A complete stoppage of the rail system would lead to shutdowns or slowdowns of rail-dependent facilities, resulting in devastating consequences to our national and global food security, end quote. So again, fingers crossed that by the time this video airs that either agreements have been reached or Congress has stepped in to avoid this potentially disastrous situation on the rail.
You hear a lot of hyperbolic statements from both sides on situations like this, but this is a really serious thing. So hopefully they can get this resolved.
Yes, again, like I said, fingers crossed. So I guess, Richard, then to share with you a little bit, a little different topic and hopefully a little more fun. Last week, I happened to attend the 2022 Mid America CropLife Association annual meeting in St. Louis, and it was good to see all my friends from the association, MACA, at that event. And I took a couple of videos while there. Again, as you might imagine, Richard, the key topic was talking about change in the industry, change to agriculture, change to the world, basically, the last few years, because this was the first in-person meeting MACA's had since 2019. So 2 of the speakers that talked about change were Jeff Bunting from Growmark and Gwen Schramm from Bayer Crop Science. So here's a couple of video clips from them. Jeff is going to talk about the logistics and how that has changed for Growmark over the last 2 to 3 years because of the way things have changed in the world. And Gwen actually gave a little tutorial a little bit on how implementing change in your organization can take place and some of the steps that they've used at Bayer to do that. So here are those clips.
This whole group here in logistics has really kind of evolved in the last probably 3 years. You know, within crop protection, we have 7 U.S. warehouses, one in Canada. We have 43 owned and leased crop nutrients warehouses. So again, when you have that many warehouses, that many trucks, that many tractors, that overall footprint, we need some way to be more efficient in how we do things. And so we have a director of supply chain logistics now that's been a new employee within Growmark the last couple of years. Kind of, pre-COVID, I'll use that as maybe a way to kind of, identify the time frame for that. But again, we look at the overall trucks, about 155,000 trucks each year. And one of the things we found out by doing this is, we're sending out, a pallet or two, or a mini bulk bag of seed, and that's not what's efficient at all. As you look in the slide, I'll kind of give you a forward look to, but we're about 80,000 truck drivers short today. And so our goal was, how do we build fuller trucks with less trucks? And we've identified some things in our system that to look at that. And we have internal words, iceberg reports to figure out, okay, so what's future deliveries that can be made today if we have it. I'm looking at all you suppliers out there. That's a quote. That's a quote. If. This is going to be a fun panel right now. I'm going to get by the back. Well, you're off the committee, aren't you? That's a big area for us in regards to how we're changing our business to reflect the changes in the overall economy.
So let's talk about that, seeing the need. For some reason my PowerPoint decided to do some funky things this morning. But seeing the need is around painting that picture, that clear vision of what you are trying to do as a leadership team in taking your organization forward. Check those assumptions, talk about where you want to go. Amy gave you a whole list of great ways of being able to look at this. And all the different, almost like a checklist of going forward, but really paint the picture. Now, the picture, when people don't get it, sometimes you have to be even more direct. What happens if we change? Great. What happens if we don't change? And I will tell you, I've had this quote for a long time in most of my presentations, and that is, if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even more. Or even less, sorry, I should have said it correctly if I know my quote. But it's around the fact that there are some times when you will have a conversation with an employee or you'll have a conversation with a peer, and it is absolutely clear that they don't understand that if I don't have a labor supply, it doesn't matter if See and Spray technology comes out, I got nobody to run those sprayers. We have to change how we're looking at recruiting individuals, inspiring them to come into agriculture, identifying how we can change about how they absolutely work together so that it creates a purpose for what they do. They're not out there just killing weeds until they're dead enough, right? But it's around how you're producing food in the most sustainable way. So it's just sometimes it becomes such a slap in the face that you have to get to that point so that you get people better aligned in how that looks. A lot of positivity that you can have when you can give them the right vision. The second part is supporting the moves. So now that you've seen the need and everybody's all on the same page, it's like, okay, I get it, but I don't know that I necessarily have the skills to get there. So assure that you're actually providing either education, you're giving them training, you're working with them alongside to best understand what they understand and what they don't understand so that we can work together to make sure that they're building their skill sets and have the capabilities to be successful once the environment changes into that new horizon. There are times though where education and the skill building is insufficient, and it's more, and I call it behavior or practices or however you might do it, but how someone comes to work is equally important. Do they bring their whole self to work? Are they excited about what they're doing? Can they bring that purpose in there, knowing that they have to move and take these skill set differently as well. And so it takes coaching and development as far as the tactical skills. It takes coaching and development on the behavioral side too. And it's really around a couple of things. And situational leadership is one that we've all known for about 25 years. We've definitely, many of us have been through the classes at some point in time in our career, but it's also a great one to be able to do, and understanding where do you need to coach and where do you need to really drive someone. But remain connected with those individuals. See them where they are. See when the good days are there and how it's working together, and see where you have issues on those other days. And make sure that we're not only recognizing the behaviors you need in the culture and telling someone, but recognizing it broadly. I would tell you that my leader actually has a recognition program that is around identify the pillars of behaviors we want to have and recognize those behaviors all the time. Whether it's being customer obsessed, it's acting as one team. Identify those behaviors you want to have, recognize them broadly in the organization, and recognize them one-on-one on every small act that they take, so that they know that they're going ahead and going along with you into that new culture. And then finally, redirecting behaviors. Now, I didn't do the final, which is understand that there's sometimes it's just not a fit, and people will self-remove. And that's unfortunate, but it's also fortunate for them if they can find their path someplace else. And that's another place to go. And then the final one I have is just inspire them to finish. Subdue the noise. I will tell you that anytime you go through change, and I know everyone in this room has gone through it either personally or professionally, it gets to a time where I am just done. Now I'm starting to hear all of the stuff that's going on in the marketplace. I'm hearing all the noise that's going on in the organization. I am listening to that more than I'm listening to, that's right, all I needed to remember was focus on 3 critical elements and we'll be okay. I hear the 82 other things that I should be doing because they're urgent and they need to be done today. I've got to deliver on the business. I can't think about transforming and driving in a new direction. I got to deliver today. Think about that noise factor and identify how do you best support them by reducing and subduing the noise.
So that's what Jeff Bunting and Gwen Schramm had to say about change in the marketplace. I must say, Richard, just referring to Gwen, when she used the term self-remove for employees who actually quit their jobs or the projects they're working on, I was a little taken aback. That was a very interesting term. I've never heard it used before as a euphemism for quitting, but I'll have to remember that going in the future. When someone asks why my marriage failed, I can say that my ex-wife self-removed herself rather than divorced me. I think that sounds a little better, don't you think?
I'd go with that story, Eric.
Self-removed,
Yeah.
yes. So anyhow, that was a clip from a couple of those folks there. So Richard, I know that we're working diligently on trying to get some events going here. I know we're working hard on PACE Executive Forum, which will be coming up at the end of October. But as a preview to that, I recently did a webinar, a couple of folks talking about the changing agribusiness climate. It was pretty nice. And I'll promise in the next week or so, we'll have some highlights from those speakers. But if you want to chime in a little bit on what we're expecting from the PACE meeting.
Sure. No, it's great that we're doing these webinars, live digital events leading up to the event, kind of talking about some of the big topics that are happening that we'll be covering at the event, just throughout all of our coverage. So continue to watch for those. You talk a lot about change. That's a big part of what's happening now, and that's going to be a big part of this event. We're working really hard to put together a great program for everybody. Hopefully you'll check out the webinar and definitely come to the website, paceexecutiveforum.com. The event's going to be October 27th and 28th in Kansas City, and we're really looking forward to seeing all of you there.
Yeah, if you folks love barbecue, can't do much better than going to a place like Kansas City.
That's right, absolutely.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. So yeah, check out the website. And again, I know we've been offering some discounted rates as well on some of the registration fees. So if you want to check that out and look at the agenda, but we'll all be there. Me and Richard will be there. And
right.
We'll be talking on stage and up close and personal as well. So.
All right.
All right. Well, Richard, time for our favorite part of the program. Yes, time for fun with numbers. All right. So
All right, let's do this.
All right, so I have a small number for you
Okay.
this week, but it could mean big things going down the line. So your number, 3%.
3%. Okay.
Okay. So is 3% A, the percentage of projected yield decline for corn this fall?
Okay.
Is it B, the projected decline of yield for soybeans?
Okay.
Is it C, the percentage of projected yield decline for wheat? Or is it D, the percentage of times I plan to use the term self-remove for future projects I don't want to work on?
We're going to go not on D because that's not allowed.
It's never D. It'll
no,
probably never be D as
never
long
D.
as we're doing this.
No. I would say let's go with C.
Oh, Richard, I'm sorry. Yeah, you had only a 33% chance.
Yeah.
No, actually, the report I was reading about was talking about the correct answer is B, soybeans.
Okay.
This was USDA released some numbers on the expected fall harvest, and they were mentioning that they were cutting corn production numbers, the projections by 415 million bushels, soybean by 15.3 million bushels. But the projected corn yield was going to be down 2.9 bushels to 172.5 bushels, but that soybean was projected to be down 3%, and that was going to be 1.4 bushel per acre cut down to 50.5 bushels per acre. So,
okay. Well,
yeah, again, harder weather. I know talking to a lot of people at the MACA meeting, anybody west of the Mississippi, they're not getting any rain, so that is really severely affecting their crop. And I know even here in Ohio, we are. I mean, usually this time of year, folks are in the field already harvesting some corn. Soybean is looking like it's ready for harvest. Everything I've seen driving around the state the last few weeks, I'd say we're about 2 weeks behind.
okay. Well, hopefully we'll get the good weather that we need, and we'll be back sort of on track, and then there'll be rail service to take care of all this stuff.
All the wild cards. All right. Well, hopefully, folks, we'll have a lot better news to share with you next week. Like I say, I'll be remotely at a meeting in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'll give you more information on that next week when you join us. But on behalf of myself and Richard Jones, I'm Eric Sfiligoj. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
See you next week.
If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comments section below. Your feedback is important to us. We will try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.